Hey, welcome to the table. Pull up a chair. This is Dr. Paula, and I just wanted to come on today to talk about something that's been on my mind for a little bit. The other day I went for a walk, and I tend to go on long walks, like 4.5 to 5 mile walks. And those times that I go for walks are very precious for me, even if they're for a shorter time, like 30 minutes or 45 minutes. But, in those moments, I'm able to kind of re regulate myself, to kind of decompress, to reflect on things that are going through my mind that I'm trying to process. And I needed those times, and I find them to be precious too, because I feel like it's in those moments that God is giving me clarity on what it is He'd like me to do, especially with the YouTube channel, the social medias, the writing, the workbooks and journals, and going to conferences, and even potentially speaking and creating courses and workshops and so forth and so on. And, it seems like a heavy task to manage and try to see, but I understand that, I can't do everything all at once. And it's very important to understand that as a trauma therapist, that there needs to be time set aside for myself to decompress, and so that I'm not triggered by anything. And as I work as a therapist, it's like I carry a lot of stories. I carry a lot of stories that are not mine, and I walk alongside a lot of people. However, I also have my own stories, and I have to make sure that there's a good balance, and that I'm able to manage all the things that I am holding, and being able to balance my life and my work is essential to, having any productivity or being effective as a therapist, right? I know that on these walks, a lot of times, when I'm feeling down or feeling anxious or anything like that, it's been very helpful for me. And it had to be a deliberate choice on my part to make the decision to go for those walks, because otherwise, if I don't make the decision to kind of change the situation for myself, then I would find myself in a low throughout the time, and it impacts everything else. It's very difficult for people sometimes who are going through the lows and are walking through the valleys to kind of understand that there is light at the end of the tunnel, that they have the opportunity to make a choice and a decision to impact the trajectory of their emotions and to kind of balance them well. And sometimes when people carry a lot, especially trauma clients, if you carry a lot, it's very difficult to see a way out of the trauma. But there are some people who use the traumatic experiences that they had as a catalyst for change. From the traumatic experience they went through, they learned a lot of things about themselves, and they experienced something called post-traumatic growth. Okay, instead of post-traumatic depression, they experience something called post-traumatic growth, which allows them to kind of maybe view the situation in a different way, and to realize that they've come out of it a lot stronger than they thought they could have. And that's a process as well. It doesn't just happen immediately for a lot of people. Some people, they might just numb things out and stop thinking about it, and they compartmentalize it so that they can function effectively, and it seems like they're experiencing growth out of it, but something one day might trigger the lock on that door, and it opens, and then they realize, well, maybe I was just avoiding certain things, certain emotions. Okay. That being said, though, that the decisions that we make will impact our lives on a daily basis, right? It will impact our relationships. It will impact our effectiveness at work. It will impact our ability to think clearly. All right. And so, for a lot of trauma survivors, it's very difficult. It's very, very difficult to make a decision or make a choice that will be one that takes them farther away from experiencing the negative effects of the traumatic event, because they've spent so much time and so many years trying to cope effectively with it. It becomes a part of their natural flow of life, their natural part of their routine. So when they experience a moment of calm and they feel like, oh, I'm healing from this, it can become anxiety provoking for them, because they don't know how to function in a quote unquote healed way. So they will look for little things that will point to, the traumatic event that they experience and how they're used to coping with it, and might fall back into that pattern. However, there are other people who are able to make those decisions, and they're able to experience the good, and they experience the positive in their lives despite the traumatic events that they experienced. And every day we get up, we make a decision, we make a choice to do what we can to ensure that our day will go well, right? Hopefully with the use of positive coping mechanisms. Some people find it difficult to use them, but there are positive coping mechanisms out there, and the decisions that we make and what we choose to focus on and what we put our energy into will also factor into that as well. We can choose to allow past mistakes, past experiences to dictate today, which will also impact tomorrow. All right. But we can only control one thing at a time, right? And one small decision, even if it's like, oh, for 10 minutes, I'm going to go for a walk. Or even if it's, okay, I'm going to do this because it makes me happy, versus continue to ruminate over the things that don't make me happy and continue to engage in behaviors that don't make me happy, continuing to interact with people that don't fill me up or make me happy or make me feel safe because it's so quote unquote normal for me to do. I'm going to try and invest my time into making changes that are positive, have positive impact on me overall. All right. I do that on a daily basis. My faith has been pretty steady and pretty strong, and God has been a guiding force in my life. So in the mornings, I do pray, and that's how I start my day. And, I thank him for what's to come and for the strength to kind of make it through whatever comes my way. However, I know that, any moment that we have is not promised, right? So in the moment that we are right now, we have to kind of say, okay, this is my day. This is what I'm facing in this moment. What can I do to ensure that I have the best possible experience that I can possibly have? All right. That's the key thing right there. That's what you need to kind of focus on. All right. So if you are going through a tough time right now, or even a happy time, take some time to enjoy that space that you're in when you're experiencing the happiness, but also take some time to look at what is going on right now and ask yourself, well, why do I feel this way right now? What happened that has triggered this? Because if you take the time to do that, that allows your logical and rational mind to be a part of the process. Your prefrontal cortex will now be working in the process instead of just allowing your emotions to dictate everything. Take a breath, pause for a moment. If you have to close your eyes, do so, right? And just breathe in and breathe out. Breathe in and breathe out. Breathe in and breathe out. And don't rush. Just take your time. And you may find a sense of calm in that. If it doesn't work immediately, that's okay. Don't stress yourself out about it. Find something else. Maybe go for a walk. If it's just for 2-3 minutes, just escape the environment that you're in that's causing you to feel the negative feelings that you're feeling. Just go outside if you can, if it's nice and sunny and you can hear birds and trees, you can see trees and so forth and so on. Go outside for a moment and experience that, and just breathe in, right? Just breathe in for that moment, then go back. It helps to reset you. It helps to ground you. All right. If you're in the city, that's a tough one. That's a tough one, especially if you're in a city like New York City that's always constantly busy. But you could still leave the space that you're in if you are able to. If you're at work, go to the bathroom. Go to the bathroom for a moment, maybe throw some water on your face if you can, or even just breathe for a moment while you're in there. If you can walk down the hall, go walk down the hall for an errand. If you have to go to a printer, go make a copy of something, just to get out of that space that's causing you to feel anxious or to overthink or to feel sad or to feel depressed, because you can make that decision to change that. Okay, you can make that decision. And if it's 1 or 2 minutes, the boss or the supervisor shouldn't necessarily be on your tail because you took 2 minutes to do something for yourself. All right. You are very important. You need to schedule yourself on your calendar. All right. You are just as important as the job, as your coworkers, as your family, as your friends, as anything else that comes up. Right. So schedule yourself. On my calendar, it's called me time. And I have me time. And I don't allow anything at all to take away from my me time. If anything changes, I made the decision to change it because that's what I wanted to do, not because I felt pressured to do it. But I realized over the years that I am important and I need to be prioritized as well. Because if I'm not prioritized and if I'm not 100% secure and if I'm not feeling 100% ready to take on anything, it's going to be very difficult for me to be effective in my job, especially as a trauma therapist, right? So take some time for yourself today. If any of this resonated with you, like, share, subscribe, talk to other people about it, do some journaling, take some time for yourself so you can kind of help alleviate some of the situation or some of the feelings that you're feeling right now. And that gives you a sense of control in a way. We can't control every single thing in our lives, but that might give you a sense of control. All right.